Hi, hello everyone, and welcome to welcome to Zelda Speedruns. We're doing another Zelda 2 Randomizer Standard Tournament Winners Bracket Round 2. We have AmazingToaster versus traiLZ with me and Commons here today. Today our Amazing Ampharos and Angry Demon Noises. How are you guys doing?
We're doing fine, I think, and I promise I will not show any bias toward my fellow amazing speedrunner.
I'll be biased on the other side if that helps. Or
Should be
unbiased
a really good
on the other
match.
side.
I'm gonna let you guys go and have fun.
Yeah, I do make the amazing joke because AmazingToaster is very literally amazing, but honestly, both of these runners are extremely good at the NES randomizers in general and Zelda 2 in specific. I don't know if I've ever heard of anyone playing as much Zelda 2 as traiLZ, just a ridiculous amount of experience. And Toaster can just kind of be an inspired runner at these NES games, and he too has put in a lot of those hours.
Dude, it takes a lot to get to winner bracket round 2, so I'm looking forward to it. I've watched a lot of these, and I've seen a lot of really good games from both of these guys.
That being said, I'm not super familiar with a lot of the nuance of Toaster's rando style. I know traiLZ was often vocal about stuff like, now's the time to go into Death Mountain or something. So I would just intuitively expect maybe traiLZ could make a couple more of those wild, aggressive early game plays. But I do think we have two players who could both pull them off. And we are off. So we get an early town in a cave. Looks like we have two believers in check the town first. Don't know how I feel about that, but the back end of Saria is hardly useful. And we get a pretty spicy first cave. I know a lot of weaker players get really scared at trying to do this cave in the dark at 1-1-1. But as you can see for these two, no problem at all.
That was a cinch. The dark caves are tough. I'm sure it's a lot of audio cues that they're using to know what's around.
It's really less the audio cues and more almost every enemy sprite. There's a couple exceptions like the bouncy cats, just very slightly overlaps the ground. You would be amazed how much you can learn about what's going on if you just watch the ground closely.
And it looks like we got an early trophy from both of them.
Yeah, trophy's actually a really good first item because we haven't even seen Rudo yet, but this guarantees us 3 spells out of the west, barring weird scenarios like Boots Lock Towns, but that's pretty uncommon. So that's definitely going to give us a lot to work with. And my apologies to everyone for being a real big loudmouth. It comes to me naturally, I can't help it.
Well, apparently you're loud and I am quiet.
See, it's perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
Exactly. Alright, let's see what traiLZ gets from here.
So we got everyone's favorite spell, the Spell of Spell.
Hooray!
Spell is a really not useful spell in most contexts. It can be required in obscure scenarios, so you're not super unhappy to see it. And sometimes you get some really bad encounters it helps with, but based on what we've seen of the overworld so far, I honestly kind of expect this not to be used at all.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right on that one. Looking at this overworld, boots would be really nice. They got a huge river blocking them early.
Yeah, of course, there's a pretty good chance that there's a bridge to the west or some connector cave that goes to the north here. But certainly those rivers are always something you want to keep in mind for how you could be restricted. I'd also like to point out a little tactical difference here. So as soon as traiLZ saw that orange Dyra, he lured it out, killed it by itself, and then went in to fight everything else. Toaster pushed forward a little more and ended up aggroing, I think it was a Moblin.
And made him take a lot more damage, yeah.
But definitely, if he got a little worse roll on life too, this could have turned out very differently. So that was an interesting little difference in the nuance.
He does have a little less life to work with, so I guess that makes sense.
So we see a western bridge going south, which, I mean, that probably goes nowhere, but what makes that notable is it decreases the odds we can walk across the river to the north without the boots. Oh, we get the fun P-Bag Cave. There's a P-Bag Cave in vanilla, but can have an item in the randomizer. This is a cave I'd always like to see because I feel with almost any enemy rolls it tends to be pretty easy. Those Geld arms are really just about the worst thing you can see, and even they're not that bad. You can see they do almost no damage.
And at the end of it, you can always jump onto those pillars and know that there probably isn't anything there. Oh, never mind.
So we got one of our two visibility items in the form of the cross. Now, the cross is a much maligned item, but honestly, in the randomizer, it's a lot better than it is in vanilla, because invisible MOAs can be in almost any Eastern Continent encounter. Between the two items that just help you see, I honestly prefer the cross over the candle. It's a bit of a hot take in the community, but it's how I feel.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Does look like traiLZ has opened up a very small bit of lead as he confirms there is no way to the north without finding a connector or the boots. So we're definitely going to want to keep an eye out on that, especially because I don't think we've seen the raft spot yet. So there's a pretty good chance the raft spot is north of that river.
I told you that river was going to be annoying.
So yeah, I would definitely expect both players to just keep checking caves, but maybe actually dive into some connectors and just see where they spit them out. Speaking of that raft, we find the raft in the grassland spot. A little bit of different pathing from Toaster finds the town of Mido. Probably the worst town he could have found. Well, definitely the worst town he could have found. The only one that doesn't give him anything immediate. But good to know that's not going to be hard to go back to later for either the spell or, more importantly, probably upstab. Downstab. Downstab's a little better than upstab, and actually in Mido. So yeah, we found Parapa Cave, which was a very easy path north of the river. So it ended up not being a big deal, but with stuff like that, you always do have to wonder how that could lead the runners apart, because that was the first connector traiLZ check that led him up here. Toaster probably takes the same path, but it's not guaranteed. Yeah, Toaster's going to be joining traiLZ shortly. Well, traiLZ is getting our 5th of the 6 free items in the Western Continent. Going to pick up the item from... I think this had a heart container in vanilla. I always remember this cave as fake Parapa Cave because it looks just like Parapa Cave, but it's not. Oh man, and we get the Metropolis in the north, 2 different towns. Based on what we've seen, this should be both Rudo and Raru, so we're going to get a lot of information about the type of seed this is pretty quickly. And actually, it looks like Toaster found the towns and made the opposite choice of which to enter first. Even better.
We'll get the information quicker. Works for me. Yep, and just like Star says, P5 is north of River. Toaster found that one.
So there's most powerful magic. Probably not going to be very helpful for a good while, especially given that it costs, what was that, 112 at Magic 3, but can easily be an important long-term value. Fire is our other spell. The value of that remains to be seen, though we can certainly say Toaster won't be learning what it is with it costing 65 at Magic 1 and him not yet having that magic container that traiLZ found. That being said, I do expect exploring fire to be a huge priority for Toaster. So, for those not familiar, fire in the randomizer is usually paired with a different spell because the actual effect of vanilla fire spell is incredibly marginal. So when you cast fire, you get the benefit of it and another move. And depending on what that other move is, it can be a big deal, because fire gets real cheap at high magic levels. traiLZ cast it. It clearly wasn't fairy or jump. It didn't look like it was shield, though it's always dodgy to try to rely on other people's color palettes. I don't know that we have any more information beyond that.
Yeah, I couldn't tell myself either, so I guess we'll just have to see.
Knowing it's not fairy, at least, is a pretty big deal, because we still definitely don't have a solution to lock doors, whereas if fire were paired with fairy, that could have blown the seed open basically instantly.
True.
And traiLZ finds our last cave in the west. This is Trophy Cave. So that means the hammer does not block anything other than the item in Death Mountain, which is pretty significant information itself.
Oh, and there's the solution to the doors.
Yep, Magic Key. So Magic Key, that further raises a question of what fire's paired with. Because if fire's paired with something that's not going to revolutionize the seed, which honestly would just be thunder at this point, you can kind of afford to just neglect your magic levels in a Magic Key seed. And that really makes it easy to get strong.
It's so much better than fairy. It doesn't cost anything. Alright, we got traiLZ heading into the east.
Yeah, and I totally expect Toaster to be right behind him. You have 3 spells, all the items from the west. Unless you want to try a palace, and I don't think we saw any palaces that were too exciting. We saw, what, like 2 and 5?
Yeah, that was it, so... It's most likely in east. No, maybe not.
Did Toaster check which palace this is? He might just be uncertain. It's P4. So I think it's, what, 425 in the west? Yeah, I wouldn't be thrilled about going into any of those right now with the entire east available.
And it's quite early for those.
Like, I guess 2 wouldn't be that bad, but it's also the one that's the furthest away. That's the one south of the river.
Exactly, and if you're gonna go to P4 or 5 later, you might as well save that one too.
So, apparently, I didn't see it, but Zero Wing in chat helping us out. Fire is paired with spells, so that's, given a spell, basically the worst thing it could possibly be paired with.
You're not wrong.
So yeah, the fire spell is totally irrelevant, but in a way that's simplifying, because now you know your magic levels are not going to be very important.
At all, especially with that key.
And we get Shield out of Naboru. Now, Shield's a handy spell, especially when you don't have other really important spells. You can just kind of afford to cast it at the first sign of danger. Extends your survival a lot, but this is where you kind of get into that nervous moment as the runners of, when am I going to find the Reflect spell, which I now know for sure I need. Fire is not paired with Reflect.
Yep.
And what are the odds fairies required? Where is it? How likely am I to need that medicine or that child?
Well, at this point, the best thing for them to do is just keep exploring the east and hope they land on something.
Yeah, Toaster found one of the item caves in the east. He took a death to an invisible Moa. The cross doesn't help you see them if the cave's dark anyway. Whereas traiLZ went a different way. Found the desert tile that is the bad desert tile that gets you nothing without the jump spell. And is kind of pressing on into this desert pass. Can be a very tricky area to navigate through, but traiLZ having no problems. Toaster finding the flute, which is a great find. I think we saw... Did we see 3-Eye Rock already?
I don't think we did. Maybe. Chad,
I thought I must have saw it out of the corner of my eye, but it might have just been, you know, some other weird piece of topography. The Zelda 2 Randomizer is an excellent program. It can draw all sorts of crazy overworlds that'll keep you guessing and thinking.
Dude, that's what makes it so fun. The map is different every time. And in ways you'd never expect sometimes.
Yeah, but Toaster took a game over. Now, this could be a pretty race turning point, not just because of the time loss. It's obviously not a quick game over, but this totally might be the point where he says, you know, I'm going to take this curse as maybe a blessing. I'm going to go into Palace 2.
Let's see what the ops are. Yep, I saw it too.
Yeah, traiLZ takes what's actually his first death of the seed, which... I mean, that's pretty impressive, because they largely followed in each other's footsteps, and we know Toaster's a very strong player. But in the time it took Toaster to die 3 times, traiLZ managed to avoid deaths altogether. That's a little just bit of an early execution advantage for traiLZ.
There, and there's that flute we needed. And thank you for subscribing, James. I believe this is the channel with all the cool emotes.
Yeah, this cave, though, that Toaster game overed in and has been 2 deaths for traiLZ so far, this is a rough cave. So it's hard to put too much blame taking some deaths in there. We're about to get our dive into Maze Island. Maze Island will give us a palace, which I feel there's a pretty good chance it's a palace that traiLZ will be interested in, and it gets you 2 items. It's just a super valuable place to be. And given how remote it is in this seed, definitely a bit of a plus to be here early.
Yeah, interested to see what they find in here. I'm betting they'll check the palace first. You did miss the pom-pom.
So, a little disappointment for traiLZ, learning he can't kill either of those Lizalfos with Thunder. He was looking for a cheeky free level before he up-A's in the Palace. Turns out to be GP, so not going to be doing anything there for about an hour, but you know where it is now.
Yep, interesting place for GP. Poor luck, though.
Looks like Toaster's about to find his shield spell. Probably would have really liked to have that back when he was picking up his flute, but what are you gonna do?
Pom-poms are important for Z2R.
Yeah, that was the hammer Trails just got. Now, we've already established hammer doesn't do a lot for you in the West. There's no hammer blocked item over there. We still don't know if we have hidden Kasuto in play, so that hammer could be useless or it could be a critical find. We just don't have enough information yet. The visible Moas still being just huge jerks to Toaster. They are...
Oh.
Those enemies are basically the worst. Even when you can see them, they're kind of tricky. But Trails gets a really big find, finds the boots.
Very good find.
Boots aren't actually required in that many seeds, but they are nevertheless just such a good item to find because the amount of time you save just being able to walk over rivers in the overworld is enormous.
Even just in Maze Island, it just lets you walk right out.
Like, I mean, it almost sounds like a joke, but Trails probably saved a solid minute just leaving Maze Island for finding the boots there.
Exactly. So, pretty good find. Took a lot of digging, though. So I'm interested to see if Toaster is able to find it.
We see the 3-Eye Rock Palace as P1. Toaster diving in. Very easy to agree with decision. He should be able to shred this place. And I would point out that Toaster used Spell to get rid of that guy. He only saw 20 from the other enemy, left the P-Bag behind. Now, it's going to be very hard for Trails to get a lot out of this gym, but Trails is definitely the type of player who conventionally doesn't worry that much about where his levels end up. He'll just deal with whatever the game gives him. But it's a dynamic to keep a little bit of an eye on. Yeah, I totally mean Trails. I might have flipped the names.
It's no biggie.
Yeah, looks like Toaster's gonna be getting all the goodies from Maze Island that Trails got. Well, Trails is about to show us what our item in Palace 1 is. It's the child.
Nice.
We have still not seen the town of Darunia. There's a pretty good chance they can just fully clear it as soon as they find it now, because there's a pretty good chance that either Jump or Fairy's in Darunia, so you go in, turn in the child, get one of those, and just grab Upstab all in one fell swoop, right?
Yep. So as soon as they find it, it's around.
That's also somewhat of a significant find, because the probability that you need something else in this seed other than the glove has gotten pretty low. Like, it's possible Reflect is in Mido, but the odds that you can just finish the game are pretty high, because that's probably not true with what we know.
Oh, and a quick boss find as well. Trails taking on Horsehead.
Yeah, Horsehead, by far the easiest of the bosses, and Trails just playing very aggressively. Gonna just pop the gym, get under 200 points for it. I would care a lot. He doesn't seem to care very much. He's moving on. And it looks like Toaster's finished his business in Maze Island, so I expect Toaster to largely follow in Trail's footsteps. Like, there's almost no reason you wouldn't check what the 3-Eye Rock Palace is. You see it's 1. Like, how do you choose not to go into 1, right?
Exactly. It's a quick palace finish. Like, there's no reason to do it any other time.
I mean, if nothing else, you don't want to listen to the flute again when you're opening it at 3-Eye Rock.
True. Yep, and there we go.
Just another heart container from our other cave in the east. We still have 2 free items on the eastern overworld, though. I don't think we've seen the desert or the ocean tile. And wherever New Kasuto is, that's going to be a treasure trove. At least 1 item, possibly 2. We'll get a spell. We have the hammer. We know we can get in even if it's hidden Kasutos. So there's a lot of overworld work I think we're about to dive into here.
Yep, I think we saw the desert tile, but it was jump blocked.
There's 4 desert tiles. One of them is an actual randomized item. The other 3, Keybag, Red Jar, Extra Life, but the one that was jump blocked, it's not the item one, it's one of the others. And of course, that's just very unappealing when you don't have jump. As traiLZ does find our ocean tile, which is only a 50-point P-bag, basically an empty tile, and desert tile 2 of 4, not the randomized item, just a red jar, so we're still looking for that desert tile item. For anyone who's not sure how you kind of tell what's up with the desert tiles, the one with the item, it's kind of on a little rocky pedestal. I think it was a heart container in vanilla. It was near the original Palace 6. We see quite a large Valley of Death in this map. It's kind of making it very difficult to see the path to the southern part of the world. traiLZ is trying to sort that out now. Toaster's still playing a bit of catch-up in Palace 1, but we know Horsehead is directly to the right, so Toaster will be moving out of this palace shortly and getting back on the overworld exploration train.
Yep, shouldn't take him too long.
Of course, the remaining palaces aren't too thrilling from a runner's perspective, it's worth noting, because the palaces we haven't seen are 3 and 6. Those are the 2 palaces that have by far the highest rate of a glove lock. So most of the rest of the overworld digging is mostly just looking for, you know, the desert item and the new Kasuto items. Otherwise, you're probably looking to go back west looking for the glove.
Yeah, now they've got the boots, the west is that much more traversable.
So, like 99% of the time when you check a forest tile in the east, you're disappointed when it's the ferry because you're hoping for a big P-bag. When you have a non-visible amount of remaining health, you feel a little better about it.
Oh, and there's that big P-bag.
And here's another open town. It's Old Kasuto, the least exciting of the towns, but it is a free spell, and with the cross, this place is way less horrible than it is without the cross.
It looks like it's fairy.
Yep, traiLZ picks up his fairy spell. Toaster is just about to get this heart container from this other eastern cave. Gonna be a little disappointed in that find, but given how long the walk seems to be to get to the southern part of the eastern continent, maybe not the worst thing in the world. Okay, New Kasuto is not hidden.
It was right there.
Yeah. traiLZ emphatically does not deserve that old woman's help. He needs to go out there and find 2 more magic containers before she wants anything to do with him. And we get the jump spell, which is a very disappointing spell to find, but it's what you got. You're once again going back into that I'm nervous about Reflect mode, because Reflect at this point is either in Darunia or Mito. The only spells we haven't gotten. The other is Life. These runners can easily do without Life, but they cannot do without Reflect.
Yeah, so finding Reflect first will save a good amount of time.
That works? You can Sword Beam a P-Bag?
That looked awesome! Quick time save. I didn't think you could do that either.
According to Buzz Thunder, another pretty experienced runner, it only works in New Kasuto. This is some new tech to me. Some obscure tech. Impressive display of obscure knowledge. I wouldn't have guessed.
Very, very situational. Best part of Rando, I agree.
Here's a third desert tile. It's the one, and it's a heart container.
At least that saves them a desert tile.
Yeah, traiLZ at this point is probably just going to keep looking for Darunia. He has to know it's either 3 or 6 in Death Road.
It could still be in the west, though, too.
Yeah, so traiLZ at this point should just pick up Upstab, pick up the spell, and really no matter what the spell is, just hit up A. But we'll see if he puts all that together, or if he chooses to give 3 or 6 a shot. Because if he goes through the Valley of Death, I think it's nearly guaranteed he's going to give the palace a shot, even if it's an undesirable palace.
True.
Also of note, traiLZ did not pick up Upstab. Now, Upstab is not required very often, but it's required sometimes. To me, it feels really risky not to grab it when you're literally in the town with the ability to get it. But I guess if you're comfortable with the risk, go for it. And yeah, we just saw the life spell, which is pretty terrible. Like, I mean, life is a useful spell, but at this point we have a scavenger hunt for 2 items now, the glove and the medicine, and we know we need both. And traiLZ is still just kind of looking around. He looks like he's he was thinking about going into the Valley of Death. I'm not 100% clear what traiLZ is looking for at this point.
I have no idea either. We'd assumed he'd go right back to the west.
I guess he wants to check out this palace that's 3 or 6. That is defensible. It's a long walk to get back here. Knowing which palace is which has some value by itself. And if it were 3, and it's not, there's a good chance that it would have either led to the item or a glove block quickly. This is totally 6.
Is he gonna go through it anyway?
The good news is that the odds of a glove block in 6 aren't super high. Like, it definitely happens, but if your drop rooms are nice and they don't get you stuck, depending on kind of the orientation of which drop goes where, that's pretty likely. There's really just the one room that's a big problem, but
he did take the attack. It looks like he's going for it.
Yeah, this is scary, obviously, because 6 can take a real long time, and when it doesn't pay off, it doesn't pay off emphatically. This is
like
also commitment.
Confirmed that it was 6 and is deciding to not take it.
I don't think Toaster confirmed it was 6. You can't tell from just the statue which one of 3 or 6 it is.
Well, he knows it's one of them.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny thing because like the statue tells you the difference between 2 and 5. The flying Moa tells you the difference between 1 and 4. But you actually have to go into 3 or 6 to tell. The first room is actually exactly identical. While traiLZ is getting to the other problem with doing P6 early, which is that you're pretty likely to have to fight these Rebanaks without downstab in this situation. traiLZ is definitely good enough to do it, but it's not easy.
He's gonna have to play really safe with the life. It's coming along.
Yeah, and after he got Rebo off his horse, like, that was just absolutely textbook. Just attacking aggressively, not taking any hits at all. I think traiLZ is pretty good at this game.
Boom, there you go. Quick early P6.
But that's only the beginning of our story in P6. For one, we very likely are fighting another one of those guys when we find the item room. We still have Barba, we still might be glove blocked. A lot of drama remaining to this P6. But at least that's one Rebo who's never coming back.
traiLZ is on the hard commit.
Yeah, and when you only have enough magic to cast Fairy once, flying across that room can be kind of scary because you could easily get locked without magic again. And here we see the drops playing nice. We have a drop pairing that goes to what should be a glove-blocked room, but just because the drop is oriented more to the left in the dropping room versus the target room, you're able to just get around what should be you getting trapped without the glove.
Very lucky.
Man, traiLZ just shreds a blue dark nut very efficiently, also not that easy to do. Only gets 70 points for it, which is a very underwhelming reward, but sometimes the game just does what it wants. Toaster, on the other hand, deciding he likes upstab a little more than traiLZ does, picking it up.
Definitely a fair call.
So traiLZ has found a bit of a loop here. 6 tends to have several of those. Gonna go back and check the elevator. Pretty good call. You don't want to commit to that drop hard because the drop might get you stuck. The elevator definitely won't. So now Toaster's facing, unless I've missed something, exactly the same decision that traiLZ faced. I think he's completely done with the west here, or the east here rather, unless he wants to dive into 3 or 6.
Yep, be interesting to see. We know Toaster doesn't know if it's 3 or 6. So I'm thinking he might at least check. There's that desert tile heart.
I kinda was looking at Toaster when traiLZ changed course there, so I cannot answer chat's questions. My apologies, I have failed you as a commentator.
It's okay, it's a dual fail. I was also looking at Toaster.
traiLZ did find Barba. Gonna do this fight. I honestly don't see any reason he wouldn't do this fight after coming this far. He should get a level from Barba and another level from the gym, and I totally expect traiLZ to do exactly that. Just take the 2 immediate levels, and then it'll be interesting to see if he goes back into 6 for the item, but I honestly could pretty easily believe him just moving on. Toaster, on the other hand, is committing to the Valley of Death. So he's going to find Palace 3 here. This is going to be a pretty high leverage moment.
Ooh, and Trails takes out Barba with a sliver of health the whole time.
See, the amazing thing about where these runners are is I hardly even felt it was worth mentioning, because I had every confidence he was just going to do it. Like, I wasn't even feeling worried for him. I just knew Barba was about to die. So it looks like 3's item is available right at the start of 3. Toaster, or Trails, is leaving 6. Toaster found the candle in 3, which is not what you want to see at all. Basically no value at this point. If he has to dive Death Mountain, it'll help a little, but there are not many items that Toaster wanted to see less than that candle. And yeah, Toaster just choosing to up A here. I think that's a really good call. You've already seen one of the 3 right-handed dead ends, which is immediately giving you the item.
Exactly.
The odds that you can get to the boss without running into a glove block aren't terribly high.
Without glove and reflect, it's a pretty tough choice. But I think West makes so much more sense.
Yeah, you can clear Palace 2, Palace 5, see what you find in there. If you have to go into Death Mountain, well, you're in the west, Death Mountain's in the west, you can make those calls. Maybe you dig 4 for the item. I feel like most of the good plays remaining are in this western continent now. And yeah, Toaster making the break immediately for downstab. It's kind of a shame when you have 7 of the 8 spells to end up going into the 8th spell town knowing you're committing to a double dip, but downstab is just so good. It's entirely believable that this decision will save Toaster time.
And Trails got his P3 candle.
Looks like Trails is going to continue in 3. See if he can confirm for sure that he needs the glove. But it's worth noting this choice isn't symmetric, because from Toaster's perspective, he also hasn't seen the situation with Palace 6. Trails has already beaten 6. So Trails might have some of those crazy ideas. You know, if I find my way to Rebanak here, the odds that this is a gloveless seed have gone up a lot. Now, in reality, that's still super unlikely. Glove is required in Great Palace most of the time, but... You know, these are the thoughts that go through your head when you're playing these randomizers.
Makes a lot of sense. See what Toaster finds in this palace.
Yeah, 2 feels like just the easy call here, and it's the call Toaster's making. It's possible to get glove blocked in 2, but there's only 1 room. So it's pretty likely that Toaster's going to get something he wants here. Well, Trails is hard committing to confirming that you absolutely need the glove to beat 3. This is actually a lot of time Trails is investing. Like, if he finds the boss, it's totally worth it, but I think the math's against him here. And this block pattern's against him, too. Look at that.
Oh, this one is rough.
Okay, we found the last elevator in 3. We know going to the right here either leads to the boss or the outdoor dead end. And if it goes to the dead end, then you know for sure the boss is behind that previous glove lock. And yep, glove required and 3 confirmed. Not that surprising. Toaster's decision to just bail, looking like a big deal, because traiLZ had opened a bit of a lead, but I think most of that lead is erased just by the decision to bail on 3, so I think we're neck and neck again. You know, traiLZ has 6 done, Toaster has a lot of progress in 2.
AA commentary is super hype. Nothing great on the item in P2.
That magic container isn't an awful find, if for nothing else but the fact that we know we need 7 magic containers for the item in New Kasuto.
Oh, true. That 7-jar lock is quite annoying.
And we do see, it's a very friendly 2 layout. I feel like Toaster saw less than half of this dungeon. Got both the item and the boss, no glove lock.
Yeah, easily less than half.
Very annoying situation when you're 250 points to a pretty big level. Toaster choosing not to let experience control his life, just places the gym anyway, moving on. I don't really expect either of these players to make decisions based on experience, but Zelda 2 is not easy, I promise. And when you're just not taking levels that you could get, it can be stressful.
traiLZ is also making quick work of P2.
Yeah, it looks like Toaster's heading to Palace 5. This is, I think, really the most meta decision Toaster could make. The logic behind going to 5, like, digging for 5's item is consistently terrible, but you know you have to find Gooma anyway. You might just stumble into 5's item in the process. And like, nothing in 5 should be too tough for Toaster to handle at this point. Like, he's just to pick up a level. He might pick up another level just on the way. He has down stab, he has all the spells. This just shouldn't be too bad. But yeah, if you were going to make a Death Mountain play, this is probably the first point where I think it's a really logical thing to do as well. So it wouldn't be super shocking if this was our first real divergence and traiLZ went for it. But I guess it wouldn't really be surprising either if traiLZ just joined Toaster in 5. I think they're really the 2 main plays you would consider making here. And yeah, traiLZ, he considering
not.
And he's going to Death Mountain. So yeah, here is our, amazingly at 47 minutes, our first really big divergence. I guess going into 6 was a big divergence too.
Yeah, traiLZ is ahead with that. For sure, but let's see what Death Mountain brings.
Yeah, like, the odds that one of the 2 items in Death Mountain are required at this point are incredibly high. Because the glove and the medicine are both required, and there's not really that many item slots left in the world. One of them are probably in Death Mountain. If neither of them are in here, there's a good chance that there's a magic container in here, and New Kasuto has one of those 2 things. traiLZ finds Hammer Cave super fast. Gonna look around, see if the rock is close at hand. Smart play, because if the rock were just a little bit to the south, you don't want to backtrack out of Hammer Cave. Man, Toaster gets through, but he was stuck between a rock and a hard place with those 2 iron knuckles. Toaster immediately finds the one room you need fairy for in
Tough luck there.
Palace 5. But the game shows mercy. Magic jar right there. Okay, our first item in Death Mountain will really break the seed one open. It's the blast heart container. So Trails can go from not dying to not dying, and we now have the critical information of where a required item isn't.
Honestly, Krista, I would not be surprised at this point.
Yeah, like, it's really likely at this point, like, I think more than a 50% chance that the item behind 7 magic containers is required one way or another. Granted, the only item that could be glove locked is the one in 6, so... Like, if this is a magic container in Death Mountain, it's entirely possible Death Mountain isn't required because you can just get the other remaining magic container. Trails confirming that there just aren't easy ways to the northern part of Death Mountain here. And, oh, there's the rock in the south. So the rock ended up being way easier to find than it could have been. And there's the glove. So that's pretty required. Toaster absolutely will have to go to Death Mountain at some point. I honestly feel that for a competitive standpoint, it's much better that the glove is the item in Death Mountain and not the medicine. Because I feel like almost no matter what Toaster finds here in Palace 5, Death Mountain is probably on his slate sometime soon. And yeah, 5 being a 500-point P-bag.
Oh, hooray.
Yeah, like... There's just no way as Toaster your next move is in Death Mountain. Because, like, even go into Palace 4, find the item, when you're 1 item from Go Mode, that's often reasonable, but when you're 2 from Go Mode, like, you just have to believe in Death Mountain here, right? Trails talking to the spell lady, getting a very quick reminder that spell hints are not on in these flags. In the settings that were used before the brackets, you could just talk to the spell NPCs and they would tell you where the spell items were. That would obviously speed up this seed a bit, but no such luck this time. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the only spots we don't know are 4, 6, and New Kasuto. 2 of those are magic containers, and 1 of those is blocked by magic containers in New Kasuto.
Yep, and I don't remember seeing any of those either, so...
Of course, you really have no information between the 3 what's going to be what. It could easily be the 8th magic container behind 7 magic containers. And that's actually what Vanilla did, so Wouldn't be that shocking, right? Trail's taken some hits doing a very aggressive strategy on Guma, but
still making quick
Life
work.
6, you can get away with that. Kind of one of the advantages of the take levels as you go strategy is that you usually have life 5 or life 6 in mid-game, whereas the holding it off strategy often has only life 3 or 4, so you can afford to get hit a couple more times just going for fast, aggressive strategies.
Yep, and Trails didn't even need that safe heal at the end. He would have had it.
Toaster in a very special room. I always like to call out this room in Zelda 2 Randomizer. This room in Palace 5 with all the flying enemies and the breakable blocks over the lava is a room there is no reason to enter in vanilla. Only exists in Palace 5. It does not exist in any other palace. And it's just terrible. It's kind of like just a little treat that only Randomizer players get to enjoy. Yeah, it looks like Toaster's on the right track to find Guma. Trails is going back in looking for 5's item. It's an easy to justify decision. It is not going to pay off for Trails in the least.
Nope. But I get why he's doing it. It's fair.
Yeah, like, I could see gambling it here. Like, just... I don't know, just going into 4 and hoping. Like, you've already cleared 6, though, so... Like, I guess you figure the only way that going in here could be bad is if it's a stupid item like a pea bag. Little does Trails know. Because, yeah, like, even if this was a magic container, Trails would feel okay about it, because it would get him the new Kasuto item. And he figures if it's not the medicine, it's probably a magic container. Right logic, but just not correct here.
Cat says hi.
And we see Toaster taking a much more conservative Guma strategy. If you just kind of bully Guma, push him off the side of the screen, he really has trouble spawning the mace. As he got later in the fight, Toaster, I guess, decided to open it up. Might have just been having a hard time finding the position to open the fight at the start. But either way, takes down Guma. Not much health left, doesn't matter. About to place his 3rd gem, and I would expect him to go to Death Mountain, but it's going to be a big deal if he goes to Palace 4 instead.
What would be helpful, too? Exactly, Desi. It's that time of night.
Yeah, there was a Death Mountain entrance right by the entrance of Palace 5, but that might just not be the Death Mountain entrance that Toaster knows. It kind of looks like he's fishing for Death Mountain right now.
Which is the best call at the moment. Thank you, Mew Mew. I think I changed that pretty recently, actually.
Yep, Toaster finding Death Mountain. If I recall, Hammer Cave's just right here, so Toaster immediately going to get his super disappointing heart container. and then we'll probably continue his dive. Should in relatively short order find that glove. And then Toaster will have decisions to make. Do you go into 4? Do you go into 6? Or do you, I guess, go finish 3 for no possibility of finding the item you need to finish the seed, but you can do it.
Trail's on his way to also more disappointment.
Yeah, 5 is a really just pesky dungeon.
It's long, too.
How long it took Toaster to grind through that, and traiLZ at the end of the day is going to have spent about the same amount of time. He just kind of explored in the opposite order Toaster did.
Oh no. He didn't even grab it.
I mean, he knew it wasn't a 2,700 point bag, so there really was just no reason to grab it. He learned where a progression item isn't, and traiLZ has to make a call here.
I think it's a power move, not grabbing it.
So, from a horse racing perspective here, Toaster has a little bit of a level lead, but that aside, traiLZ is basically strictly ahead, as traiLZ has already finished 6, and traiLZ already has the glove.
6 is a tough one to maneuver through sometimes too, so he made pretty short work of 6.
traiLZ also has a lot of information about the layout of Palace 3. I don't anticipate that'll be very valuable, but it is something he has. And traiLZ is, I think, looking for 4. It makes sense. Because, like, do you really want to go through a super long overworld walk back to 6 that you've already beaten? Yep, traiLZ in 4. We know whatever this item is, it helps him. If it's the medicine, he's in go mode. If it's a magic container, then his path through the seed is very straightforward. He grabs the item from New Kasuto, and either that's the medicine and he's in go mode, or it's the last magic container and he's in go mode because he knows the item in 6 is last location for medicine.
And this is such a nice palace color.
But yeah, Toaster's taking a bunch of caves in Death Mountain. He's not utilizing his boots to kind of explore that right side of the mountain, see where you can get in that way. This is going to cost Toaster, most likely, a very large amount of time in Death Mountain. Like, you can easily burn 5 to 10 minutes just wandering in circles in the mountain. And we know that it's possible to get to the rock very easily just using your boots. So this could be a pretty major moment in the race.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't... I don't want to lose too much time here.
It does look like Toaster's kind of stuck in this northern area that I don't know if it actually has a way to that eastern coast. But he was at the Hammer Cave, and I know that had a way to that eastern coast, so there was an easy path available to him at some point, even if it's not there now. Well, traiLZ finds our item in 4. It's a magic container.
Which still helps.
Yep. He knew for sure this item had to be helpful because
so
he was last location.
Heading right to New Kasuto, maybe.
Yeah, there's really... Like, traiLZ has almost no real decision-making left at this point in the seed. He's going to go to New Kasuto because it's next to Palace 6, and those are his only 2 item locations left. So at this point, the seed is nearly completely linear for traiLZ, and he has a lead over Toaster on that path. Toaster's finding the glove here, but he's going to have to step on the gas if he wants to catch up.
Yep, at this point, traiLZ has a considerable lead.
I think the first step to Toaster catching up has to be him just going straight to Palace 6 and that turning out to be correct. Well, actually, we know if Toaster goes to 6, it'll work out either way, don't we? Because either 6 is the medicine, in which case he's in go mode, or 6 is a magic container and he can get the medicine out of New Kasuto with that. But Toaster really needs to avoid 4 here.
Yep.
Because if he just does exactly what traiLZ does for the rest of the seed, traiLZ would have to make a large execution mistake to lose, and I just don't think for a player like traiLZ that's very likely.
It's pretty cut and go for traiLZ at this point.
Yeah, traiLZ just made his way back to New Kasuto. Gonna take his 50-50. Really no reason he wouldn't.
It is the right call. Absolutely.
It is the medicine. traiLZ is in go mode. Don't really know... Well, I guess traiLZ is just heading to finish 3 right now. Given that he already has 6 done, the logic is you finish 3 while you're in this southern part of the eastern continent, you up A out of the Valley of Death, turn in your medicine for Reflect, beat 4, go to Great Palace. So yeah, a little heads-up play from traiLZ here, just considering his optimum overworld route. Toaster goes into 4. Like, it's totally easy for me to see why he made this decision. But unfortunately, I feel like it's probably the nail in the coffin for him.
It's going to be the one that loses him the most time. But there's no reason for him to know that. True.
Yeah, I think it would have been faster for him to get the magic jar out of 6, because he has to explore most of it for Barba anyway. And he needs to catch up in that regard, but... The good news for Toaster is that even though this is gonna cost him some time redoubling over traiLZ's steps, this is gonna put him on a pretty linear path to finish the seed, so... I mean, Great Palace can be nasty. You can take a left when your opponent takes a right. We'll see what happens. traiLZ getting just a little trolled by that Iron Knuckle, but the death cost as much time as it looked like. traiLZ is up A-ing after placing this gem, so that life means almost nothing. Toaster now has his magic container, heading toward New Kasuto. Gonna get his medicine there. Probably go mode 3 and 6 before going back for Reflect. traiLZ is taking care of business against Rebo. Ends up getting the Pogo Strat in the corner. Rebo was being a little bit of a jerk, but not too big of a deal at 566.
He made quick work of it.
That puts traiLZ at a two palace lead. That's a pretty considerable lead. And it looks like his final level is going to be 667, which, for a player of his caliber, that's comfy in a short GP.
And there's the medicine for Toaster.
Yes, traiLZ does have down stab. He picked it up really a good chunk later than Toaster, but he did get it eventually.
traiLZ's gonna finish up his last palace. It may come down to GP.
I mean, at this point, there's basically no question traiLZ is going to be the first into GP, probably by a good margin. I think Toaster's main hope in this race, and this is a real hope, it's not, like, impossible, is that GP has some really long, complex layout when you go right at the start, and you go left at the start, and it's a short path right to T-Bird and Dark Link. Of course, you have to know these races are blind, too. Toaster knows that he just about last locationed everything, but he probably feels like the decisions he made were largely what traiLZ would have done, and they were. The two players did similar routes throughout the seed.
I don't think they made any, like, bad choices. It was just, sometimes it was just luck.
Like, the routes amounted to being nearly identical. I think the difference ended up being execution, and Toaster probably isn't counting on traiLZ having out-executed enough to have a large lead going into GP, because it's not even like Toaster played badly at all. traiLZ just kind of beast-moded the entire seed.
Pretty much. He made quick work of every single boss and encounter.
Yeah, like, they were really neck and neck, up to the point that Toaster took that game over in the Eastern Continent, but I mean, that was really the only opening traiLZ needed to just kind of lock the race down with execution up to this point. But we'll see what Great Palace does. This is a short Great Palace, so it doesn't have quite as many fangs as GP can in other settings, but it can still be a little unfriendly. Yeah, I feel like Toaster is getting close to Barba while traiLZ walks into GP at 113.50. The funny thing is, based on just what I know about traiLZ from how he's talked about stuff, traiLZ probably totally believes he's the second one into GP right now. Trails is probably like, man, I had to look everywhere for the medicine and the glove. I bet I'm the second one in GP. But I'm just going to do my thing in GP, see what happens. Not knowing that he has a 3-boss lead, and Seed's going pretty well for him. Speaking of pretty well, oh my word.
Oh my gosh, that was the quickest GP I've ever seen.
I mean, we don't know GP's over. It could still be a long road to Dark Link, but
True,
certainly
but quickest Thunderbird.
Ruling out 2 drops right at the start and immediately being dumped into the Thunderbird fight is a very good sign. Trail's losing a little bit of control over Thunderbird here, but reasserting it pretty textbook fashion. For the most part, he just followed the classic pendulum rules and took out Thunderbird without too much drama. We immediately see a fork in the road after Thunderbird. You kind of expect Great Palace not to give everything up right away when Thunderbird's so easy. So we'll see just how much this seed wants to make Trails work to find Dark Link. Oh man, come on, Trails. I've been talking up your execution. You only had to deal with a blue bird knight, constantly spawning fireballs, and a spicy chicken. That shouldn't have been a big deal, right? Oh, speaking of big deals, there's Dark Link right there.
Quick. Probably, now I can say, the quickest GP I've seen.
I've seen 4-room GP before, but on the scale of GPs, this was pretty firmly in the friendly side. And the path for this fast GP was just follow the meta, which also means there was never any opportunity in this GP for taking a weird path to really benefit you. And that's it. Trails has won the race with a time of about 1:17. I'm not in the race room. I don't have exact figures. But GG's Trails.
Now, 117 was right.
And according to our chat, I haven't checked the bracket either like a responsible commentator. Sounds like Trails will be facing Buzz Thunder in the next round. I'm sure Buzz Thunder has already made his way into Great Palace, placing all the King bots in all the unfortunate locations. On the other side, Toaster is going to be getting Nightcrawler, which that should be a very exciting match. Well, both these matches that they'll be going into should be very exciting in their own rights.
I'm excited for both of those matches, yeah.
So Toaster makes exactly the same mistake Trails did with that orange iron knuckle, but reacts just a little bit faster and gets the fairy cast off to double back. Kind of fun to see that parallel there.
Did he up A? Why?
Well, he definitely up A in order to go get the Reflect spell and do Palace 4 in the west.
Oh, true. He finished. Okay. I didn't notice that he finished. It's like, that seemed preemptive.
Yeah, and based on what we saw, Toaster shouldn't be too far behind Trails here. Because, like, he already has information about the layout of Palace 4, and we know Great Palace is completely free. And if Toaster suspects that Trails routed like he did, he'll probably suspect GP's pretty easy when he goes in. But, wow, looks like we're joined by Trails. GG, Trails.
Hey, thank you. Sorry, I had to put it on push to talk again.
You're good. Excellently executed.
Yeah, I gotta admit. Well, that was 100% all items. The last magic container was in Palace 6. I don't know how Toaster played it, but I kind of just shot from the hip and just went for all items. And then while I was over there, I figured, I may as well do a couple palaces while I'm over here. And I ran into P6 and P3. Luckily, I was able to complete P6, but I still had to come back for 3. But upon getting the glove and all that stuff, digging the magic container out of 4 probably saved me, didn't it?
It wouldn't have really mattered as it turned out, because... Yeah, I mean, if you'd gone to 6 instead, you would have gotten the magic container there, which you would have used in New Kasuto, right? Those are your only remaining options, right?
What was that? I'm sorry. It was P6 for New Kasuto, right? And P6 by process of elimination was a magic container.
Yeah, so that was really, like, at the end that wasn't really super relevant. The 4 container was almost certainly faster than going back to 6, but I think you had enough of a lead that it probably would have worked out for you if you'd made the opposite decision.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I figured there's 3 item locations left. 4 either has magic container or spell item required, and that would be the first time the required spell item for Reflect was in Forest. And thank God it was an easy dig. I mean, if I would have went down in that elevator instead of up, I would have had all of Palace 4 in front of me. And it seemed like as soon as you went up and right, that item room was right there. So it kind of benefited me in that factor as well.
Yeah, I kind of figured it was really unlikely with Barba already defeated you would make the decision to go back to 6. That kind of almost seemed to make the decision for you to go for the item in 4.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure if the item in P6 was glove blocked. I assumed it was because I saw a lot of 6 and I didn't get blocked. And there was one more drop down, and I figured it was going to either be the Crumble Bridge drop. I mean, yeah, the Crumble Bridge drop or the blank room with the flying enemy with the stacked blocks. And I figured if I went left, it was either going to be the Canadian drop hole or the BGT room.
Yeah, a lot of the chat seemed convinced you walked out of the item room. Honestly, at that moment, the entire Restream team was looking at something Toaster was doing. So,
I remember.
No idea whether that was true or not. I was willing to give you the benefit of the doubt that you probably thought 6's item was glove locked, and you probably didn't just walk out of 6's item room like a doofus, but I honestly don't know.
I hit a loop. I looped into the Pastor Rebenak. When I went in there, that was a really ugly down-established Rebo fight. But anyway, I did that fight, and whatchamacallit, I went through and then I ended up looping back to that same room. So instead of going back over, I just went back up and left, I think.
I think
Yeah, that
the
makes
only
sense.
thing.
In terms of the routing, I will let you know, you and Toaster actually had remarkably similar routes. There were a few little differences, like he didn't go into P6 when you did, but given that that was just killing the boss and didn't really advance you in the seed, that didn't change things too much. You transposed who did Death Mountain first, who did P5 first, but again, that doesn't really change anything other than the order.
Yeah, it was all pretty much almost the same route. The only thing that lost you a bit of time was P5. That was just sad. And like,
I mean, P5, I think...
it made sense. It was just unfortunate.
Just in the opposite order, because, you know, Toaster found 5's item and then dug for a while for the boss. Trails found the boss and then dug a while for the item. It was about the same thing, just the other way around.
Yep. So technically, you didn't lose time because both of y'all lost time for him, but it just trolley P5.
Yeah,
I think the big difference in where the big lead came from. So, your first time in the East for both of you, you remember that item cave that it was pretty nasty. I think you died in it twice. It had 2 Moas. I think it had the hammer at the end, or it had the flute at the end.
Yeah, the whistle. Yep.
Yeah. Well, you made it out of that cave alive. Toaster game overed on his way out of that cave. And just that extra time to go back east kind of opened up just a bit of a, pure execution lead for you there. And it just kind of snowballed a little bit more from there until you were walking into GP with Toaster still having 3 palaces to go.
Wow, yeah, I got lucky. I was gonna go find a palace on Maze Island and then up an A, but I got lucky, and I found a 1-up on, I think, the forest tile there. There was a forest tile or something, or a desert tile, that had a 1-up doll, and because I was on my last life when I went in there, and I was like, I did a turn back, and then I walked around and I found a tile with a 1-up in it, so I said, you know what, let's go get that item.
And I would say if you just kind of look at the race as a whole, that was kind of the decisive moment in the race, is just how that cave went differently for the two of you. And otherwise, it was just very close routes and just, you played faster and you won the race. So congratulations.
Thank you. I gotta say, man, I was definitely really, my hands were shaking entering GP, because entering GP around the 115 mark is never good.
Did you think you were second going into GP?
I thought I could have been. I thought Toaster may have been in there a little while longer than me.
I called it out though when you walked in, and Trails has a huge lead. It would take a crazy trolley GP for Toaster to catch up here, but I bet knowing Trails that he thinks he's second into GP right here.
I mean, if he would have went in the order of getting the glove before going into P6 and getting the 7th magic container, then he would have had the medicine before going back west and doing P4.
Yeah, he definitely could have saved a little time if he'd gone to 6 before 4, but by the time that decision came up, I don't think it would have changed things, especially with just how absolutely free that Great Palace was. That was a very generous Great Palace.
Yeah, it was pretty nice. As a matter of fact, I think Toaster is going a different way than I did.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Toaster is going the wrong way.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't say he made a wrong decision.
He'll figure it out. Yeah, it's not going to be too bad.
He was faced with the choice between walking through a long room for an elevator or doubling back.
Taking the elevator, yeah.
He made the opposite call. Who can say what's strategically correct? We just know where Dark Link was.
Yeah. No, I'm not bashing on his gameplay. I'm just saying that he's just headed in the wrong direction. That's all.
I mean, it's the nature of Rando. You make 50-50 calls, and sometimes they work, and sometimes they don't. Luckily for Toaster in this case, the race is already over, so this call is not terribly relevant. It's just how things are going for him today.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, man. This seed, speaking of unfortunate, this seed kind of sucked my dick.
Yeah, we are doing a doubleheader, and I need just a couple minutes on my end before we jump into Jake Hoper versus Lightning. So I will totally trust you, ADN, to handle any necessary Toaster interview and to wrap up here. I will be back in just a couple minutes for the second.
Oh, sure. Sounds good.
Thank you guys so much for doing the restream. I'm out of here, man.
Thanks so much for joining. Good luck in your next races.
Hey, man,
GG's, Trails.
thank you guys so much for having me, and thank you for doing stuff with me. You're great.
Yeah, and good luck with your next match versus Buzz Thunder.
Thank you. You guys are great as always.
Alright, so as mentioned, if A's gonna take a quick break, I'll pop in to speak briefly. As we watch Toaster continue to try and find Darklink, we do have a doubleheader tonight. So we have another match coming up shortly between Jake Cooper and Lightning. So that'll be starting a few minutes after this one. We are going to watch Toaster finish it out here.
And lots of Z2R content today.
Oh, absolutely. Hopefully we'll get him in for an interview real quick, and then we'll switch over. Cobra's kind of being lazy with the race room at the moment.
It's fine. As long as both runners are okay with it.
I think he specifically said that it would be after the trails match, so... Anyway.
Yeah. They seem fine with it. So it's cool.
Yeah, so... Toaster still trying to find his way in GP, currently in this waffle room.
He was right there.
I know.
He was right in front of the door.
Yeah.
And then he turned around.
Yeah, feels bad. Also, hey, Trails in chat. Yeah, welcome to My Seeds Suck. I have a distinct and pretty well-earned reputation for rolling some absolutely terrible OTR seeds. And not all of my Z2R seeds have sucked so far. This is one of the ones that does.
Ooh, going for the draw? That actually might be the right call. It's fine.
It's
Didn't know how to respond. It is cool, it's fine. I just thought it'd be funnier not to say anything.
Shit. And hey, Light here is chilling in chat till their race starts up once this one finishes up.
Please don't take the elevator. Okay. He's getting there. Just keep
Okay,
going.
phew.
He was at this room and turned around.
Oh,
I'm so
doesn't
sad.
feel bad.
I was so sad. I was like, he's right there.
Right.
It was just unlucky.
It is, because that's how Randomizer be sometimes. One person makes the right call, the other takes a wrong turn, and it ends up making it. And one person gets some time, and the other loses some time. That's how it
I
be.
got the decision. It was like, do I want to go through this long room or do I want to take the elevator that's right there? I guess I'll take the elevator. But the long room was the answer.
Yeah, unfortunately so, but this is Darklink.
Hey, I'm glad Toaster saw it through.
Same here, to be honest. We'll see if we can get him in for a short interview, perhaps between. And then we'll wrap it up and switch over. And that's Toaster done. GG's. 133.52. GG's to Toaster. Not forgetting about interview scene today.
Nice. I mean,
Great
in
for
that case, it worked because there was content and an interview.
Alright, Toaster will be joining us here for an interview. Gonna tow him up. Hey, Toaster, GG's.
Congrats on the finish.
Yeah, that happened. I'm guessing he went to Death Mountain a lot sooner than I did.
He was so you guys took pretty much the same exact route, but you were just always a little bit behind him.
I don't know. I was
Like there were no poor decisions made
well, and
as
you
far
had
as
to have,
routing.
yeah, you had to have 7 containers so that you could get the medicine so that you could reflect and finish 4. That was the big crux of the seed.
Exactly. And so you had to get the items and then P4 and P6, so it made sense. I think the only thing that he had was that that Trails did P6, like he finished it all up a lot earlier. And so
Yeah.
you also had to finish P6 a little bit later. But all in all, like, amazingly ran. It was just a bit of bad luck, especially at the end with GP.
Yeah, I ran around in some circles in GP, but it was already over at that point, so that didn't matter.
True.
I guessed on some things and I just took all the wrong paths in GP.
Yeah, that's how Rando be sometimes. Trails did manage to find his way to Darkling a decent bit faster, but was also several minutes ahead of me going in, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, like you guys were neck and neck on pretty much all the items the whole time. It was just the dungeons the palaces that were just a little bit different.
Yeah. Whatever.
But amazingly ran. Like GG's to you.
Mm-hmm. It was a nice race.
It was pretty ridiculous.
It was
Yeah.
that was a terrible seed for sure.
Yeah. For sure. All right.
Yeah, no, GG's. Well played. Unfortunately, it's 100% kind of seed. You taking a game over early on the Eastern Continent didn't help much either.
Yeah, I got in that cave, and there was very little chance of me getting out of there alive. I probably should have just up-A'd when I got the item in that cave because of that eyeball in the dark.
Yeah, that kind of hurt him. Probably didn't. It got kind of hurt to see, especially because you took your Eastern Continent exploration got thrown off too.
Yeah, it costs a lot of time to have to go back over there.
Yeah, and you had to do it several times. Oh well.
Yeah, no, that was a seed. Had some, again, as ADN here said, very similar routing, not too much in the way of divergence, just kind of little execution things here and there. You also got a bit more lost in Death Mountain than Trails did.
Well, yeah, there was just a lot of it was all connected, and I wasn't finding the right connections to get out of that part of the zone.
Yeah, either way, there were no huge mistakes, which is why you guys were so close for so long. It could have been anyone's race. It's just GP ended up being extremely easy, and I thought that's what would have been the deciding factor if GP was actually difficult, and then one of you guys just finished GP first.
It happens.
Yeah, rando be rando sometimes.
True.
For sure.
Absolutely. Still GG's to you, though. You're not out of this tournament yet either. You're moving to Losers Bracket, where you'll be facing off against Nightcrawler next.
Okie doke.
Thoughts on him and as an opponent?
I haven't played against him lately, so I don't know what he's like. I know I'd been favored in the past, so we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Nightcrawler been able to race as much lately due to IRL problems. It has gone all the way to brackets, which is itself pretty impressive.
Yep.
No, GG's to you both all the same. When did Toaster sail? I think I sailed around the 13-minute mark or something for questions from Trails. I think you sailed after that, Toaster, though I can't be sure.
No, it was a pretty early sail because there was not much to do in the West early on.
Yeah, it was all
Yeah.
locked. Boots locked, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Okay, chatbot's being stupid. Yeah, it's just pretty sure brackets is the. Actually, anyway. No, no serious. Nice, Aaron. But no, shoutouts to both of our runners here, Toaster and Trails, and to the two commentators. The amazing Ampharos and ADM. Thanks for commentating here and providing us the entertainment. We're gonna, unless Chat has any more questions for Toaster here, we're gonna wrap this race up now and then move on over to and then go down for a few minutes as we set up for another Z2R match between Jay Cooper and Lightning, Losers Bracket Round 1.
Yep, so be sure to stick around because it'll be on the same channel.